ESPN is pushing for Gennady, and Max Golovkin versus Canelo Alvarez part 3. I don't want to see it. I'm going to explain why in this video. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you guys throw a like on the video. Goes a long way. Happy 2022. And let's get started into the content. Now, ESPN, for one, is pushing for Canelo versus Gennady Golovkin, Max, part 3, right? As I said in the intro. This is the fight out of, like, all fights that could be made, I guess you could say, in the sport of boxing. This is one of the fights that they have on their website as the headliner, right? It says, a wish for the new year. Bring on Canelo Gennady Golovkin part 3, right? You guys should be able to see that on the screen. And I think this is very laughable that this is the fight, you know, that you choose as the cover photo. This is, you know, the fight ahead of other fights. So this article is basically going over fights that the author wants to see, including Ryan Garcia versus Gervonta Davis. And it should say Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia. You know, I look at these little idiosyncrasies because Gervonta is the cash cow. And usually you get top billing if you're the cash cow. But for whatever reason, it says Ryan Garcia, Gervonta Davis. So this author has picked Tyson Fury, Usyk, and, you know, all these fights. And one of them's Canelo Alvarez versus Triple G3. And I think this is probably the worst fight on the list, in my opinion. Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford. You see Joshua Wilder, Devin Haney and Kambosos, and some other fights. But I want to focus in on, to me, what is the worst fight on the list that they put as the cover photo, which is Canelo versus Triple G. Now, ironically enough, the author put his confidence level that the fight could happen this year on each fight, and he gives like Tyson Fury, Usyk an 8.5 out of 10 chance of happening. His confidence level for Triple G and Canelo is a 5 out of 10, right? He even has more confidence that Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence, which has been problematic in terms of, you know, that fight hasn't happened in this many years or months or whatever, right? So he's not really confident that that fight will happen with Canelo and Triple G. And to me, I think it shouldn't happen. The bottom line is this, as I stated in the beginning, the reason why I don't like the fight is because you got to look at the equation. Certain fights are everlasting. This is not one of them. I would say fights like Juan Manuel Marquez and Manny Pacquiao. I want to, it's up to my, I believe my fight would, you know, those fights, they're like an everlasting gobstopper. No matter how many times Marquez and Pacquiao fought, they fought 4. It was always action. It was always high drama, and they generally sold pretty well, and people were tuned in at those given times. Versus Canelo and Triple G, so much has changed since their second outing, it's not even funny. Canelo Alvarez has since moved out of the division where they fought at 160, and he has several fights above 160, including a knockout win against Sergey Kovalev, FAF, at 175. So that's for starters. He has several fights and some knockouts at 168. Rocky Fielding, Caleb Plant, And he just about knocked out Caleb Smith because he beat him from pillar to post in that fight. On the Golovkin side, Gennady had no guys, Max, yeah, right? Gennady Golovkin. He has regressed, in my personal opinion. One, you don't hear from him. Two, he fought Sergey Deryevchenko. That is the best name he's fought since he's been on DAZN, and it was his worst performance. I thought he looked bad. He scheduled to fight Ryota Murata. The fight was scheduled to happen. This fight was scheduled to happen in December 29th. So basically New Year's Eve. It got canceled because of travel restrictions with the Rona and Japan not allowing, anybody foreign to travel to their beautiful country right now, right? With all that's going on with the pandemic. So Gennady Golovkin has not fought for the whole year. 2021, we are in a brand new year, 2022. Golovkin has not fought one time. Furthermore, to continue proving my point, this is a guy with an extensive amateur pedigree where he had 350 plus fights. He says he's never been knocked out. He's never been knocked down, right? And even as a pro, he has like 43 fights and his age is 39. This is not what boxing is about. This is not the best that boxing has to offer. A 39-year-old Golovkin. So to me, I just don't even see the point. And I think it's very foolish and laughable that this would even be headline or in any way highlighted by old media, by ESPN. Too much has changed. Their storylines have parted. Canelo became undisputed at 168 pounds. Canelo seems to be the fresher fighter by a long shot. And it's like, what's the point? I could go on and on about why this fight stinks. DAZN, they are to blame. DAZN, DAZN, are to blame. Here's why. Because before he was able to get out of his contract, Canelo Alvarez, Canelo was exclusively signed to DAZN. They made this big hoopla, said he was an 11 fight deal, 10, 11 fights for all this money, the richest sports contract in history. Long story short, that contract didn't see its end. It actually ended. It didn't see it to the end of the 10, 11 fight stretch because Canelo found what I believe infractions on the Muhammad Ali Act, which were in violation. Things were done or written in his contract that weren't up to par. So he was able to break that pact early and say, hey, this is a breach of contract, blah, 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 right? So he got out of Golden Boy and he got out of DAZN. Prior to that, he was a DAZN fighter. DAZN had stock major players at 160 to 168 pounds. These two divisions, they probably had the most out of any other promoter right now in boxing, from Top Rank to PBC. They probably had the most players at that given division, right? And they squandered it because they didn't make the meaningful fights that needed to be made at those given times. And then you lost Canelo, and he's now a free agent. So his last fight was on PBC. We don't know what he's going to do next. He just showed up to a PBC event. We'll see what Canelo decides, but he's able to move freely. And if you haven't got the Golovkin-Canelo 3 fight off by now, then this is soured. And as time has went on, the fight has regressed and makes little sense at this point because Canelo already said he can't make 160 anymore, right? I could pull it up. You could pull it up. He said he's not going back down to 160 for guys like Charlo, and he's not going back down to 160 for guys like Andrade. And it even got to a point in more recent interviews where Canelo even said he would fight. Previously, he said he would go back down for Errol Spence fight since Errol Spence has to move from 47 to 160. But in more recent interviews, Canelo's team said they would fight Errol Spence at a catchweight of 164. So it's probably not going to happen because that would be a big ask, expecting Errol Spence to move 2.5 divisions up to meet Canelo. So Canelo has flexed and filled his weight and shifted in weight, while Golovkin has remained dormant. He's inactive, and he's stayed at that given weight of 160 pounds. Now, the irony of this is very funny, because when Golovkin had Abel Sanchez, they put out statements saying that Triple G could fight and would beat anyone from 54 to 75, 54 to 168 pounds, because they kind of shifted the statement. Ironically enough, these are the divisions that Canelo Alvarez, baby, you want baby, I know that. These are the divisions that Canelo actually fought in. While Golovkin has 43 fights, and he's not really fight. The Steve Rose fight was at like 164 pounds, a catch weight. But in general, he hasn't moved out of the 160 pound division. But his team was the one that was saying that they could fight in all these. From 54, they would fight Mayweather, Pacquiao, guys like that. Or they would fight at 60, which they fight all the way to 68, 75. Canelo has actually made the move, made jumps, and now he's talking about cruiserweight for whatever reason, God knows why, right? And I just feel like the fight is weak now, is not the same. Last thing I will say is this. You look at the fight with Canelo, if people felt the first two fights were potentially controversial, I didn't see a controversy in the second fight, but definitely the first fight. A lot of people thought, including myself, Golovkin won. If Canelo has since looked the fresher, since moved up in the higher weights, all the things that I've said earlier in this video, if Canelo were to fight against Golovkin and people felt Golovkin didn't get a fair shake a couple years ago, then how on earth is Golovkin gonna get a fair shake now when he looked bad versus Derevyanchenko and he looks worse? He didn't look as sharp. Even in other fights that he won, like Steve Rolls and Kamil Sezmeta, he didn't look as sharp as like he did. And a guy like Kamil Sezmeta has 21 losses or 21 wins and five knockouts, right? And it looked like a struggle for him to get him out versus when he was fighting the likes of Marco Antonio Rubio, Daniel Gill, guys like that, he was bombing them out. So Golovkin at age 39 has definitely regressed. And if Golovkin couldn't get a fair shake with the judges scoring, why would anyone be pushing for the fight now at close to age 40? You think Golovkin has what it takes to beat Canelo if he had close fights and still couldn't get the nod from judges? I don't see it. So to me, this is not Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti, rest in peace, type of saga. This was a saga and rivalry that was cool for the moment, but it's not everlasting like Marquez and Pacquiao or whoever the case is. And we've seen the deterioration of one fighter. He's had a lengthy career, amateur and pro. You know, he's had a lengthy career. As a pro, I'm not saying he's fought the best names, but he still has 43 fights, right? So I don't see the interest, and I, again, think it's laughable that this is what old media is putting at the top of their list. I think the fight sucks at this point, and there's really no point for it. That's my opinion. Let me know if you agree. Do you want to see this fight? And it makes you wonder the agenda of boxing media that they're still pushing this. What do you see, as I've outlined my theory and my points in this very video? What do you see that makes this a great fight in 2022? Let me know that in the comment section. And I'm out. The future is now. The Hibernation 5s by Kenichi Bear. Hybrid gaming and lifestyle headphones. Out of the box, you can connect to any console or PC. Bluetooth ready with a low latency USB adapter, color RGB, and extreme bass mode. The Hibernation 5s adjust to you. Whether you need a gaming, travel, gym, or lifestyle headphones, the Hibernations got you covered. The new Hibernation 5s, link in the description. Customize the way you hear the world. Welcome to the nation. Are you tired of your YouTube videos not getting any views? Well, consider TubeBuddy. I've used TubeBuddy for years to scale up my YouTube channel. Now we're sitting over 200,000 subscribers. TubeBuddy is a browser extension that offers a ton of built-in productivity and time-saving services to take your channel to the next level. Use my link in the description to get started with TubeBuddy and level up your channel faster.